Radiant glory, a spiritual journey to the Mount of Transfiguration. Beloved souls, come away. Come apart from the rush, the noise, and the distractions. Still yourself now. Breathe deeply, slowly. Let the breath enter not just your lungs, but the sacred place within you. The sanctuary of longing, of openness, and of divine possibility. Imagine yourself beginning the climb. The air shifts, the light changes. You are invited not merely to observe, but to ascend, step by sacred step, toward the light, toward the sacred mount. Let your eyes close, and let your heart open. Let your spirit begin its journey. The sacred mountain.
Why Jesus had to meet Moses and Elijah at the Mount of Transfiguration. Some places on earth feel supernatural, as if they're close to heaven. The Mount of Transfiguration is one of them. It felt like the line between our world and the divine disappeared for a short time. It is one of the most mystical events in the New Testament. Picture this. 3 disciples, Peter, James, and John, are led up a high mountain by Jesus. They are unsure of what awaits them at the summit. But as they reach the top, a sight beyond imagination unfolds before them. Jesus, the man they've known, suddenly becomes radiant, shining with a brilliance like the sun.
Before you rises a mountain, not towering in height, but steeped in mystery. The sun hangs overhead, glowing softly like a watchful eye. Cedar trees line the rocky path. Their scent warms the air, earthy and ancient. Sagebrush rustles underfoot as you walk. The hush of the land seems to listen. Even the breeze moves reverently.
What is transfiguration? What could transfiguration mean? Why here? Why now? The Mountain of Transfiguration isn't just about a change in appearance. It's a profound testament to Jesus' divine nature and his unique place in the great narrative of God's relationship with humanity. The Transfiguration was a brief moment where Jesus showed his divine side. It proved that he was connected to God and that he continued the work of past leaders like Moses and Elijah. For Peter, James, and John, it was like a sign that confirmed their beliefs and gave them a preview of wonderful things in the future.
There is no crowd here, no spectacle, just a quiet invitation between man and God. Are you here, present, expectant, and poised? As your steps press upward, feel the ground beneath you fade in urgency. Each breath carries a whisper of eternity. With each stone trod and ridge crossed, your journey deepens, not only upward, but inward.
Significance of the Mountain of Transfiguration. In the Bible, mountains weren't just big hills or rocky spots. They're special places where really important and life-changing events happen. Because mountains are tall, it's like they're closer to the sky, and in a way closer to God too. Consider Moses and Mount Sinai, for instance. It was on this mountain that Moses met God and received the 10 Commandments, laws that would shape the moral and spiritual fabric of the Israelites for generations. The mountain became the meeting point between the divine and the mortal. Fast forward to the New Testament was the transfiguration of Jesus.
Upward into thinner air, like the thinning veil between heaven and earth. Inward toward the center of your soul, where memory, longing, faith, and mystery entwine. You begin to notice something happening not around you, but within you. A gentle uncoiling of fears, a silent urging to believe again, a soft readiness to see what eyes cannot see. This climb, this sacred ascent, is not simply toward a historical peak, but into divine presence. Each moment spent in reverence draws you nearer. And ahead of you, there walked three men. Peter, fiery, impulsive, and loyal. James, quiet strength, fervent depth. And John, the beloved, sensitive to whispers others cannot hear. They do not walk as apostles today. They walk as seekers, as you walk with them. And leading them is Jesus, not only rabbi, not only miracle worker, but something more.
The disciples seeing Moses and Elijah appearing and talking with Jesus was not just a display of divine majesty, but a significant Number 3. Continuity. The presence of Moses and Elijah shows the connection between the Old Testament and Jesus' mission. It implies that Jesus is the fulfillment of the law and the prophets.
His eyes fixed on the heights, his heart steady with purpose. He walks with quiet confidence, drawing them upward, not just in body, but in soul. You imagine their thoughts. Peter, wondering what awaits. James, perhaps quiet, with inward trembling. And John, sensing the mystery, like a fragrance, already in the air.
As if this wasn't astonishing enough, two great figures of the past, Moses and Elijah, appear beside him, conversing with him as old friends would. He was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Matthew chapter 17, verse 2. But what if I told you that this mountain holds secrets not just for Peter, James, and John, but for all of us? Dive with me into the story of this otherworldly event, and let's uncover the deeper messages that this radiant mountaintop experience holds for each one of us today. Jesus wasn't the humble teacher or healer they were used to. This was Jesus shining with divine brilliance. It was as if heaven itself had broken through and was displaying its glory right there on that mountain. Elijah and Moses were figures who had lived centuries before, and yet here they were, conversing with Jesus as if they were old friends. This was a powerful sign that Jesus was intimately connected with the grand history and prophecies of Israel. And as suddenly as it had all started, it was over. The cloud lifted, Moses and Elijah were gone, and Jesus was back to his normal appearance. But the disciples would never forget that day. They had seen a glimpse of Jesus' true glory, a hint of who he really was, the divine Son of God.
You are not watching them. You are with them. You are one of them, and the summit is drawing nearer. There is sacredness not only in what is seen, but in what is felt, longed for, and hoped for. The divine is drawing near. You are not chasing God. God is drawing you. Humility before the sacred. This journey is not for certainty, but for awe. Not for ego, but for surrender. Allow this imagery to wash over you. Let the silence speak between each word. This is holy. The moment of transfiguration. There on the mountain's height, where silence clings like dew and the air is thin with holiness, Jesus stands before his beloved companions. Suddenly the ordinary dissolves, the veil lifts, and Jesus is changed, not altered in essence, but revealed in glory. His face shines, not merely bright, but like the sun itself, luminous, impossible to look upon. His clothing turns dazzling white, so pure, so radiant, it pulses with divine brilliance.
Why the Mount of Transfiguration? This Messiah was to be the ultimate sacrifice, taking away the sins of the world and bridging the gap that separated humanity from its Creator. When Jesus was transformed on the mountain, it was significant. It showed Peter, James, and John a peek at how glorious Jesus was before he was born as a human, and how he'd be afterward. This event might also be what Jesus hinted at earlier, when he mentioned some of his friends would see him in his royal form before they passed away. Matthew chapter 16, verse 28. What happened? The Bible doesn't give a detailed account of the conversation between Jesus, Moses, and Elijah. However, we know from Luke's account, they appeared in glorious splendor, talking with Jesus. They spoke about his departure, which he was about to bring to fulfillment at Jerusalem. Luke chapter 9, verses 30 through 31. In simple terms, the Transfiguration is a bridging moment. It connects the Old Testament stories and prophecies with the New Testament's revelation of Jesus as the Messiah. The past and the present converge on this mountain, revealing Jesus as a connecting point between them. This suggests they discussed the mission Jesus was to complete in Jerusalem, which was his impending suffering, death, and resurrection.
There is no storm, no trumpet, and no proclamation. Only light, pure, unfiltered, sacred light. And the disciples tremble. Peter, James, and John, witnesses of wonder. They are no longer walking companions. They are witnesses to revelation. So let us enter their hearts. Peter is impulsive and overwhelmed. Blurts out, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. Let us build 3 tabernacles, not to control, no, but to preserve, to honor the sacred, to stay."
Peter, always the impulsive one, interjects, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Matthew chapter 17, verse 4. Perhaps Peter, in his excitement, wishes to preserve this moment, creating a permanent reminder of this divine assembly. Yet the climax is still to come.
James stands silent, his soul vibrating with awe, yet stunned by mystery. He had seen miracles, but this was heaven breaking through. John, the sensitive one, feels not fear but longing. His heart strains toward the light. He wants not shelter, but union. They do not speak boldly, they barely breathe, and still the light shines. Moses and Elijah appear. Then through the glory, two figures appear. Moses, the great lawgiver, and Elijah, the voice of the prophets. They do not descend from glory, they rise through it. And they speak not of conquest, not of judgment, but of Jesus' departure. They speak of sacrifice, fulfillment, redemption. The past bears witness to the future.
Moses. Moses was a humble shepherd who was chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of bondage in Egypt. However, like all humans, Moses wasn't immune to death. Despite his pivotal role and close relationship with God, he couldn't enter the promised land because of previous disobedience. In the book of Deuteronomy, it is written, "So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows his grave to this day." Deuteronomy chapter 34, verses 5 through 6. Although Moses' earthly journey concluded, his story doesn't end there. Fast forward hundreds of years, and we find Jesus, the embodiment of God's love and salvation. While Moses represented the law given by God, Jesus embodied the grace and truth that came by him. The Transfiguration bridges the old and new, the law and grace, Moses and Jesus. Moses appears with Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, signifying the continuity of God's plan of salvation. Elijah. Elijah was one of the most important and dynamic prophets of the Old Testament. He lived in a time when Israel had turned away from the true God and worshipped idols, especially under the rule of the wicked King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Elijah's mission was to call the people of Israel back to God. The coming suffering of Jesus. After the spectacular event on the mountain, where Jesus was transfigured before Peter, James, and John, revealing his divine glory and conversing with Moses and Elijah, the group made their way down to rejoin the other disciples. The air must have been thick with awe as the three chosen disciples tried to comprehend what they had just witnessed. From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Matthew chapter 16, verse 21. In simple terms, the Transfiguration was like a momentary glimpse of victory before heading into the toughest battle. It reaffirmed who Jesus was and what he set out to accomplish, the salvation of humanity. Jesus is the answer to humanity's biggest problem. He was the fulfillment of ancient promises, prophecies, and laws. Through him, salvation was made possible, and the love of God was made known in its fullest form.
This moment is not a snapshot. It is a meeting point of time, eternity, prophecy, and grace. The cloud and the voice. A cloud descends, not heavy, but holy. It envelops them, cloaking them in luminous mist. And then a voice, not loud, but unmistakable, not harsh, but thunderous with love. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. Silence.
While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." Matthew chapter 17, verse 5. The voice from heaven recalls another moment, Jesus' baptism, where a similar proclamation was made. Matthew chapter 3, verse 17. This affirmation leaves no doubt about Jesus' identity and mission.
Their knees give way, their heads bow low, their spirits ignite, for they have not merely seen Jesus, they have heard the Father. That invitation into the light. And so we pause. Let this not be filled with words, but wonder. Imagine this light bathing your heart. Hear the voice whispering not just to Peter, James, and John, but to you. You are my beloved. You are invited into glory, not as a spectator, but as a child. Let the awe rest in your soul like warm oil. Let trembling be holy, and let tears be luminous. The themes in this to hold close to you is the divine identity revealed. Christ is not just teacher. He is light incarnate. The fulfillment of prophecy. Moses and Elijah fade, but Jesus remains. The human encounter with God. You too are invited to behold the beauty of the Son. And thank you for walking this sacred path with me. So let's now turn to the third movement of the spiritual pilgrimage.
Bridging the past and the present. In Matthew chapter 17, verses 1 through 11, we find a profound event, one that ties together many aspects of the scriptures. Mountains stand out in biblical narratives as places of encounters with God. Moses met God on Mount Sinai. Elijah had his own transformation experience on Mount Horeb. And now, Jesus chooses a mountain as the stage for a pivotal revelation. Moses and Elijah, two towering figures from the Old Testament. Moses represents the law, having given the 10 Commandments to the Israelites. Elijah embodies the prophets, known for his zeal for the Lord and his confrontations with idolatry. Their presence with Jesus signifies a profound truth. Jesus is the fulfillment of both the law and the prophets. Jesus fulfilling the law. In the scriptures, the law refers primarily to the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. These books contain a blend of history, prophecy, and commandments that God gave to the Israelites through the prophet Moses. Yet the law was more than a set of rules. It was a mirror, showing humanity their imperfections and sinfulness. No one could perfectly keep the entire law, making it clear that everyone needed redemption. In Romans chapter 10, verse 4, Apostle Paul states, "For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes." This doesn't mean the law is irrelevant, but that its purpose is fulfilled in Jesus. It points to him as the answer to humanity's need for redemption. In other words, Jesus didn't discard the law. He lived it, loved it, and fulfilled it. In him, the shadows of the law found their substance, and the prophecies of old found their answer. Through Jesus, the law's ultimate goal was to bring humanity into a right relationship with God, was accomplished. Jesus fulfilling the prophets. At its core, the story of Jesus fulfilling prophecies represents God's timeless promise and design for redemption. The Old Testament, a chronicle of the Israelites, is sprinkled with prophecies about a coming Messiah. These prophecies, spread across centuries, are like dots on a canvas. Jesus' life, as detailed in the New Testament, connects these dots, forming a complete picture that showcases God's plan to save humanity. Hundreds of years before Jesus was born, the prophet Isaiah foretold of a virgin birth. Long before it happened, Isaiah talked about how the Messiah would suffer in very clear and emotional words. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5.
Descent into shadow and grace. Jesus' touch and reassurance. As the cloud vanishes and the light dims, what remains is not absence, it is presence. Jesus steps forward, not radiant now, not transfigured in flame, but human, familiar, and near. And he touches them, his hand weathered from travel, firm in compassion, rests on their shoulders. Rise, he says softly. Do not be afraid. There is no rebuke for their fear, no disappointment in their confusion. Only grace, unhurried, personal, and beautiful. That hand is on your shoulder too. That voice whispering reassurance into your shadows. The sacred silence.
They headed back down the mountain, a bit dazed and overwhelmed. Jesus, however, gave them strict orders not to tell anyone what they had seen until after he had risen from the dead. They obeyed, but they were left with questions burning in their hearts, pondering what the vision truly meant and what Jesus' reference to his resurrection implied. As they descended, Jesus instructed them to keep this vision a secret until after his resurrection, showing that while the Transfiguration was a foretaste of his glory, the full story was yet to unfold with his death and resurrection. They kept the matter to themselves, discussing what rising from the dead meant. Matthew chapter 17, verse 10.
As they descend the mountain, silence envelops them, not awkward, but holy. Peter does not speak of building tabernacles. James does not question the shining, and John does not cry out in longing, because the moment itself speaks louder. This silence is a sacred holding place for all. Sometimes the deepest truths must rest quietly in the soul before they become words. So let this be a reminder. Your most profound spiritual encounters may remain wordless, but they are no less real. Back into the broken world. They reach the valley, no longer elevated in light, but now surrounded by need. A father pleads for a son, a boy gripped by torment, cast into fire, drowning in pain. Where glory once gleamed, now anguish calls out. Where prophecy stood tall, now suffering lies low. And Jesus heals. He does not hesitate. He does not need a mountaintop. He commands the spirit. He lifts the voice. He responds not in spectacle, but in compassion and power. So let this truth resonate. The light that transfigured shines also in healing hands.
As they approached the foot of the mountain, Jesus and his disciples encountered a large crowd, including teachers of the law, who were arguing with the disciples. The Transfiguration was a pivotal moment that confirmed Jesus' identity as the divine Son of God. It was also a moment that foreshadowed the journey ahead. The descent from the mountain can be seen as a symbolic descent into the challenges Jesus would face in his mission. While the mountaintop was a place of divine revelation, the base was where real-world problems awaited, like the demon-possessed boy. Jesus, after the Transfiguration, began to speak more openly about his impending suffering, death, and resurrection. The Transfiguration was not just a moment of glory, but a preparation and affirmation for what was to come. The Transfiguration stands as a remarkable testament to the extraordinary mission of Jesus and a glimpse into the heavenly realms. It was a moment where Jesus' divine nature and glory were unveiled, providing a foretaste of the splendor that awaited him post-resurrection and the majesty to be revealed at his second coming. The Transfiguration provided a snapshot of the resurrected state of Jesus and hinted at the glory of his second coming. This wasn't just a miracle, it was a revelation. It was a promise of what's to come, a world transformed where the Savior reigns in radiant glory. This event wasn't just about a glorious transformation. The presence of Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets respectively, was symbolic. It illustrated that Jesus was the culmination of all that had been prophesied and anticipated. The Father's voice echoed from the heavens, declaring, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." Matthew chapter 17, verse 5. This divine endorsement firmly established Jesus' mission on earth. The voice from heaven didn't just affirm Jesus' identity, it gave us a directive. Listen to him.
The lessons in discipleship. The disciples watch. This is not about staying on the mountain. It is about bringing the mountain's truth into the valley. Transformation is not escape. It is equipping. You are called not just to behold glory, but to embody grace. Your mission begins not with vision alone, but with mercy. Not with thunderous revelations, but with quiet love. And not with preserved memories, but with living hope. There's grace in the ordinary. The God of the mountaintop walks among the wounded. Silence as a sacred vessel. All is not always meant to be explained, but lived. In living transformation, you are a bearer of light, even in valleys and storms. So picture the descent, not as a loss of glory, but a gaining of purpose. Feel your heart shift from wonder to action, from awe to service. The invitation to glorious living. The mountain has been climbed, the cloud has passed, the voice has spoken, and now we return to the world of laundry, laughter, loss, and love. But we do not return unchanged. The radiance remains not as brightness in the eyes, but as illumination in the soul. So the sacred translation of that is the divine presence becomes daily patience. The mountaintop, awe, becomes morning prayer. The dazzling light becomes gentle integrity. You are not leaving the holy, you are taking the holy with you. Faith's journey beyond the heights. So let us not pretend the valley is easy. There are days when the sacred seems silent, times when your heart feels more wilderness than sanctuary, moments when the memory of light dims. But the Transfiguration was not just a moment, it was a compass. It points forward, it whispers through storms, and it reminds you that you saw glory and that the glory still walks beside you. Faith is not the absence of struggle, it is the radiant thread through it. Practices for glorious living. Let us root ourselves not in the adrenaline of the peak, but the rhythm of the spirit. Here are sacred disciplines and tools of transformation. Contemplative prayer. Sit, not to ask, but to listen. Let silence become your chapel. Scripture meditations. Let truth drip slowly, word by word, into the soil of your soul. Sacred breathing. Inhale grace and exhale gratitude. Service in stillness. Show up. Serve without fanfare. Give quietly and shine deeply. These practices are not grand gestures. They are daily flames. They burn slow, but they will light your world. You are the light. You stood upon holy ground. You saw the face of love transfigured. Now you shine. Not in ego, not in performance, but as a person transfigured by faith. So when you raise your child, lead your team, forgive your enemy, comfort your friend, do so as one who has seen the light. Do so as one whose soul carries radiance. Do so as one touched by Jesus on the mount and still listening to his voice in the valley.
In a world bursting with voices and distractions, the Transfiguration beckons us to prioritize the teachings and words of Jesus. He is the living Word, the ultimate source of truth and wisdom. By heeding this call, we align ourselves with the divine purpose and truth. In simple terms, the Transfiguration is a beacon of hope, illuminating the path for all believers. It assures us of the glorious future in store, confirms Jesus' unparalleled role in the grand tapestry of redemption, and nudges us to anchor our lives on his teachings. In embracing its significance, we're not just recalling an ancient event, we're tuning into the heartbeat of divine love and purpose.
So let's have a closing prayer. Not a conclusion, but a commissioning. Dear Lord, the God of Transfiguration, you who meet us in the heights and walk with us in the depths, consecrate each soul here to carry your light. May we live as a transfigured people, gentle in the spirit, bold in compassion, faithful in silence. Let the glory we glimpse become the grace we give, from the mountaintop to the marketplace, from revelations to relationships. May we shine because you have shone upon us. Give us grace, patience, and love every day. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, amen. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Have a good day.